All right, man. How you doing?
Good. How's it going, Mike?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Thanks for having
Thank,
me.
oh, thanks so much for doing it. It's amazing. It's an honor to me because when I was younger, I watched all your matches, and it's exciting to have you on and that you do that with us. Thank you so much for doing it.
Oh, no, no problem, man. My pleasure.
All right. So, Mark, I had a lot of people on here. The latest one was Paul Anacone, and it was an interesting chat. And he coached a couple of players that played in your generation, like Pete and Tim Henman and Federer. And I always asked everybody I have on how everything started with the journey. So, how did your journey start? That in the junior years, how did you start to play?
Oh, man, I started playing tennis at the age of 6. Started just playing with my dad. And just, I loved the game. I was very connected to the game early. Still playing soccer, at school and a lot of soccer because it's just so easy. It's just easy. I grew up watching soccer and friends, and it's easy to play. So, but I think kind of as I started playing some tournaments, under 10s, under 9s, under 10s, under 11s, and I started playing events. Then I kind of started really getting excited about tennis, and I would say I fell in love with it probably at the age of 11. I was uh, chosen to represent Victoria, and we traveled to Perth to play under 12s nationals.
Oh,
And I
wow.
just remember, going to this club and seeing people clapping. Of course, those plenty of people that looked like a lot were just probably mums and dads clapping, watching their kids play, right? But for me, I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. This is amazing. And I fell in love with it. It's crazy that I specifically remember a moment when I'm 11 years old. That's how important it was to me, and that's how much it stuck to me that I still remember it very clear to this day that I fell in love with the game.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And then, so in your junior years, Mark, have you ever always been like I asked that, Damir Zumur, who was like top 20, who was still playing, and all the guys who are still playing. Have you always been on top in Australia when you were playing through all the ages or age groups?
I would definitely say one of the best in Australia. Always definitely around there. But I think one thing I could definitely say that I wasn't so much junior, to a point is important. Don't get me wrong, and it's great for confidence, winning
Hmm.
matches, winning tournaments. But I was always working on my game, not to win junior tournaments, but to work on my game that I knew would help me become a professional tennis player, if that makes sense. Because you see a
Yes.
lot of junior players, best in the world, hardly
Yeah.
losing any matches, yet they don't seem to make that jump from a juniors to the senior level, to the main
Yeah.
tour level. And I feel like it's because most of the time they're so focused on winning in the juniors and they don't look to improve their game. They just want to win. And whereas I would specifically play matches where, okay, I'm serving volleying first and second serve in this match. I'm chipper charging every second serve. I'm coming in, and I'm 14 years old. They're going to
Hmm.
lob. I'm 13, 14. I haven't developed. I'm still developing physically.
Yeah.
I'm small, always the tallest in my age, but still small. And they can lob, they can pass. It's easier, but I knew it was very important for me to work on that. And then the next match, I would stay back every single time, and it was about learning. It was about building my game to what needed to happen. And thank goodness my father was very focused on that, and that's what I did, and I felt like it really put me in the right direction as far as getting my game ready for the tour.
Mhm. That's what great coaches hopefully like do. I had Diego Moyano, who's with Kevin Anderson now. Like he was saying too, when he had all the American players. He looked what they're gonna look like when they're 19, 18,
Right.
20. And then that's how he was working with them. I guess obviously, you're like what 6'5", like
Yeah.
so
Five.
massive serve, massive forehand, great net game, volley game. So so that's nice. To hear. That your father saw that obviously, and yeah. So and then did
Sorry
you
for the
go
wobble,
through
man.
all
I'm just
the?
trying to get comfortable. Just trying to put there we go. I found it. All right,
Yeah, no,
sorry,
all
man. I'm
good.
ready.
when I had Monica Puig on here, what I really found impressive was, I asked her if she got wild cards to all the tournaments. Like because I remember I wasn't a good player, but I played some futures and qualifyings and everything. And I remember was March and Croatia was one of the first tournaments on the clay court season, and there was 128 draw in the pre-qualifying, and then it was 128 draw in the qualifying. So that was massive. And then she said that stuck out to me. She said, I played all the tournaments through. I never got a wild card, so I know what it is on the challenger level, on the future level, and whenever I struggle on the professional tour, like on the big tournaments, I can always fall back on what I did when I was on the futures, and that gives me confidence. How was that with you? Did you, because you turned pro 94 and you quickly jumped up the rankings, right?
Yeah, you know what? I tell you what, I obviously, well, I was just turned 17. I got chosen to be on the group where you were traveling, playing the Junior Italian Open, the Junior French Open, and all that. And I got to Wimbledon, and I happened to have won my semi-final match, and I was in the finals of the boys in the singles and the doubles. And then I signed a contract with Fila right after my semi-final match, right before the finals, and that Wimbledon was my last junior tournament because I had the money to travel. I had no interest in juniors anymore. I didn't play the US Open.
Yeah.
I knew I had no interest in playing the US Open. Whether I won or lost, it didn't matter to me. And we had the money now to travel and play qualifying in all the ATP tournaments, and that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
Val and I, we traveled and played qualifying. And I didn't play any challenges. Actually, I just played qualifying for the biggest tournaments.
Nice.
That's what I was interested in. I probably ended up playing a couple, but that was when I was 17, in juniors. But while I was still playing juniors. But as soon as I got that wild card, as soon as I got the contract with Fila, I just started traveling, and then it happened quickly. I was look, I don't want to say I was lucky because I felt like you deserve the luck. I worked very hard, but it all started in Scottsdale, qualifying. I was 500, maybe 500 something, 500 in the world, 500 something in the world. Unfortunately, it's not around anymore, but it was a great tournament, Scottsdale there in America, and I qualified in first round. Chesnikov, I think I beat a bunch of good players, and then I beat Todd Martin, who was top 10 in the world in the semi-final, and I lost to Jim Courier in the final. And then all of a sudden, I went to 140 in the world from 500. And then I ended up a semi-final right before the French Open in a tournament in Italy, an ATP tournament, where I lost to Marcelo Rios in the semis. And then I couldn't play the qualifying of the French because it was during the qualifying time, because I was still in the tournament. And then towards the end of the year after the US Open, I had a decent run at the US Open. Actually, no, sorry, not decent. I was still maybe 115 then, 110. But then after the US Open, I played Kuala Lumpur indoors, lost to Marcelo Rios in the final. And then the week after that, I played the Japan indoors, which was one of the biggest $1 million tournament, the Japanese in Japan there. And I lost to Michael Chang in the final. So all of a sudden, I was 32 in the world, So I started off 500 and something that year when I just turned 18. And by October, I was 30, maybe around September, October, I was 32 in the world.
Oh, 50 as a 19-year-old. Yeah.
As an 18-year-old.
18-year-old, yes.
I turned 19 November.
Wow.
And so that's how it started, man. I must say it was. I guess looking back, it's tough to say that it's quick because I've been playing since I was 6 years old, so it didn't feel quick. but I did move up very quickly as far as ranking wise, and I feel like that is important because sometimes it's very difficult if you get stuck playing challenges and you become
used to that level.
It's tough, Because like you see a lot of the same faces playing the same tournaments, and they've been doing that for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. It's important to play matches, and of course, you're going to have to play some challenges. I was a little bit lucky in the sense that I didn't play, but I won a lot of matches and qualified, and my ranking went up really quickly. But I think it's very important to try and get through that stage where at least in the top 100 you can play those where you're in a lot of main draw events and especially the Grand Slams.
That's pretty cool. So, Mark, I had Craig O'Shaughnessy who worked the last couple of years with Novak Djokovic in the data and analytics, and serve +1 and the first 4 shots. He was kind of the first with a couple of others who had statistically like proven, obviously, that the 70% of the points are over after the first 4 shots. So back then, when you were trained as a junior, did your dad and all the coaches that worked with you, obviously, they knew you're going to be tall. So was that specifically stuff you worked on as well to keep the points short, come to the net, and make sure that the return is pretty solid and that you don't go like and rally, obviously, like like with those guys that are like running around and.
Look, if I sat back on the court 2 meters and rallied, I'm doing my game injustice. I'm not playing the game I am, and I'm handing a gift to my opponent. So my game, I mean, I'm 6'5". I'm a big guy. My serve was my biggest weapon, as well as I feel like my forehand as well. But coming to net, and I had the weapons to play the game on the way I wanted to.
Yes.
It didn't really matter who I played because I felt like I could dictate the point and the game the way I wanted to.
The way you played. That's what I wanted to ask you when I looked who you beat. Like, I mean, Kafelnikov, Sampras, Agassi, Moya, Safin, Rios, Nalbandian. I mean, you name it, you beat those guys, right? So that's what you're saying. When you were on, like then like you beat everybody on the planet. That was impressive when I was watching the name list. Like the guys you were beating.
Well, look, my goal, of course, the #1 goal for any tennis player, male or female, is to hold serve, right? If you can not get broken, there's a good chance you're going to win your matches if you're not broken the whole match. So for me, I felt like I shouldn't be getting broken ever. So what happens is with my weapon, or if I was in trouble, 15-40 or love 30 or love 40, I had the confidence in my serve I felt like I can just serve some 3 big serves and it's back to juice. You know what I mean? Or serve and volley, or a serve in the forehand. So when I'm holding serve that comfortably, you can afford to take risks on the return of serve. And by saying risks, second serve, run around and smack a forehand.
Even 2-3 will go in and then they get nervous and then
but let's just say even if it hits the back fence at 140 miles an hour, I'm letting them know if it's going to be weak and short, I'm going to run around, I'm going to smack the crap out of the ball. You know what I mean? And if it's 30 or 4 all, they're going to be thinking about that. Even though I missed it by a meter, it doesn't matter. It's not the point. I wanted to instill something in my opponent to know as soon as it's 30 all, 15-30, I'm chip and charging, or I'm going to run around and smack the crap out of this. And one way or the other, point is over. You know what I mean? That was my mindset, and my opponents knew that, and that was my one of my weapons. I could keep the point short, or if I felt good and comfortable, I can prolong it from the baseline and wait to a short forehand, because I also felt comfortable from the baseline too. So I didn't feel like I had to rush, where I'm like, oh my God, I don't feel comfortable from the baseline. I need to get to the net as soon as possible. It's like I knew I had to get to the net because it put the pressure on my opponent. I'm 6'5". If you can pass me or lob me for 5 sets and you win, too good. You just got to say too good on the day. But I felt like the longer it went, the more pressure I put on. No matter how good that guy was, you still feel the pressure. You still got to come up with a pass. And that's what I did,
So Mark, how is it then when you play like a Federer, right? So I mean, with your serve, I watched Isner a couple of times and all the other guys as well. The most massive serves in the world, right? So how does Roger, or like, like, and you played Nadal as well, like, like what is different? Does something change in your mindset then, that that it's coming back most, like, or like, is the dynamics changing then if you play like a Rafa or Roger?
You know what? When I was playing more, it was more Sam Agassi was the guy where
Hmm.
I still think he probably has some of the best hands in the world, probably of all time. I remember I did a year in Vegas training with him at one stage when I was injured, and I would hit balls. I was hitting with Darren Cahill, and Andre would just come on the court, grab one of my rackets, and hit the ball 2 miles an hour, this far over the net, this far from the baseline, like it was nothing. No warm up, hasn't picked up the racket 3 months. He was that good. Like, honestly, I've never seen anything like it. And he was a guy where, for instance, I played Pete, and one of the best players of all times,
Yeah.
but I loved playing Pete because I knew that against Pete, it literally came down to maybe one break point or a tiebreaker, the way we both played, right? But I also knew that I would hold serve comfortably against Pete because he wasn't known for his ground strokes. Pete was a guy who focused on his serve, and then he waited till 3 or 4 and then he'd rally a little bit more, a chip and charge, and use that forehand, to put the pressure on.
Hmm.
And he was one of those guys. He breaks. He knew he had the set, and that's how I felt. But against Andre, it wasn't about holding serve comfortably. I knew that I had to have a high percentage of first serves, and I had to hit the lines against Andre because he was that good at returning.
Wow.
He was that good at picking up the ball. Even if you're serving 135 and it's right there, anywhere where he can touch the ball, it's coming back. And it's coming back with something as well. So he honestly was the guy that I really felt. I mean, I really enjoyed playing against, but one of those players where if I wasn't on, man, it was just going to be a tough day at the office.
And who is in your eyes the, like, with Agassi you mentioned right now, like, most talented player you played? There's like Rios out there, for example. I saw like
I have to
played
say,
him.
yes.
So why is it? Because the media, like, they don't talk so much. Like, they did talk about him, but like, it's not like didn't get so much info like on the Agassi or like on the other guys. So tell me what it is about him that
I think, or maybe he didn't get this much because I don't know if he was as widely loved as
yeah.
someone like Andre Pete,
Yeah.
but he was a guy that was, very quiet. And he stuck to himself, but he wasn't a bad guy. He was a nice guy, but just very, very quiet, kind of very shy, very softly spoken. But my God, man, his hands were.
Give me an example, like, of a
Okay,
rally or something.
he could not. Very similar to Andre. So
Yeah.
very very similar to Andre, yes, and Roger, where he did not move from the baseline. Didn't matter how deep, how high, or how much you looped the ball or had work on it. He stood on the baseline, and his hand-eye coordination was incredible. He was a guy that just would have the ball on the string. He would go cross-court, then he'd go down the line. He did whatever he wanted to the ball. And I think it was the fact that he was a lefty. He didn't have a huge serve, but he had it's just had that slice that just worked. He opened up the court, and if you just pushed it back, he just went cross court all day long. And he didn't look fast, but always was there. Always knew to read the ball well, and just his legs moved. Had kind of almost like a little belly on him, but just moved incredibly well, almost like Nalbandian. Nalbandian kind of like, didn't look like he might be able to do a bunch of push-ups in a row, a bunch of sit-ups, man, but he could play all day, 5 hours, 7 hours. His footwork was incredible. His movement was beautiful around the court, and that was Marcelo. He was man, he was tough to play. He was tough to play.
It's so nice.
Got him once. I'm not sure if I got him twice. I got him once. Memphis semi-final Memphis indoors. It was like 6 1/3. But man, there was a lot of tough players. Of course, there's so many tough players, but he was a tough one. The fact that his hands were so good, he was a lefty that added to it as well, and just incredibly talented.
So and then what do you think about the talented guys we have like now, like especially the younger guys, like like Tsitsipas, Team, all those guys. What Felix Auger-Aliassime, like
Yeah.
what do you think? Like what do they need besides the top three to start to play to get to break through? I mean, Dominic is close with the French Open.
Right.
Like he's getting closer. And even like Nick. I mean, like. If Nick gets it together in a tournament, like so talented, So what do you think? What is your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny because we always say, when are they going to break through? When are they going to break
Yeah,
through? They've already broken through. They just haven't broken through in the Grand Slams. They
yeah,
haven't beat those top 4 players in the Grand Slams. So it's a little unfair, but I understand the fact that people are saying about breaking through, because at the end of the day, the pinnacle is the 4 Grand Slams.
yeah,
And we've yet to see him, Team 2 finalists in a row at the French Open,
yeah.
came up against the greatest of all time at the French twice with
Yeah,
Rafa. And what
it's
can you
still
do?
yeah,
He played amazing tennis. I mean, he
yeah,
played an incredible match to beat Djokovic in the semis, but came up against the master,
yeah,
and that was tough. Tsitsipas, look, I think he's got a beautiful all-round game. I really believe he's the guy that I think maybe sticks out a little bit more than the rest about taking. See, look, man, it's going to be tough to say. Can someone take over like Rafa did at one stage,
yeah,
or Roger did at one stage, or Djokovic did, and now
yeah,
almost doing again?
yeah,
Very difficult to find that. So it's also going to be unfair if we look at that person to be the same. Everyone's different.
yeah,
It's very difficult to find people that are going to dominate the sport like we used to. The depth is just so great. And at the moment, we've got 3 of the greatest of all time playing at the same time,
yeah,
with Djokovic, Federer, and Rafa. I mean, my God, we're actually quite spoiled. It's
yeah.
going to be at some stage sad when they're gone, because it's going to feel like there's going to be a bit of a void. But I hope that the guys will be stepping up. But look, there's a lot of different personalities, which is very important for any sport. They bring different games
Yeah.
to the sport. As far, like I said, Tsitsipas got a beautiful all-round game. Zverev has got a great game. He hasn't at all really done anything much in the Grand Slams, which has been very surprising. But I felt like this year was more of his breakout year. I think his first quarterfinal, the Australian Open this year, where he finally playing the tennis that people expected him to play, and he looked more relaxed as well. But you mentioned, man, there's quite a few names, and hopefully the sport will be in good hands.
So you didn't play Novak, right? You played Roger and Rafa, right?
Back, no.
So did you know when you played like Roger, let's go to the Wimbledon final, and I know you lost, but it's a long time ago, so I hope it's okay to talk about.
Sure.
So first of all, what I wanted to ask you, like, to stay 2 weeks in the tournament to the last day, what factors do you have to play in your cards that you make it those 2 weeks? So is it just like, yeah, tell me from experience.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Look. First of all, it was. I'm incredibly proud of achieving. No one likes to go all the way and lose at a Grand Slam final, but unfortunately, I've lost in 2. It hurts. It sucks, man. It hurts. But I'm proud at the same time. As you mentioned, it's you got to win 7 best of 5 set matches to win a Grand Slam. There's a lot of tennis, a lot of things that can happen in 2 weeks. They always say that the Grand Slam doesn't really start till the second week. It is true, but and to save, you don't want to be too much on the court, and you want to save as much energy as possible for that second week. But then again, no point saving energy if you don't make it to the second week. You know what I mean? So a lot of things happen. You improve as the tournament goes on, but then you do want to play those first few rounds, being on the court as least amount of time as possible. It's the confidence. There's a lot of stuff that happens. First of all, the hype around a Grand Slam. Then it's the locker rooms, the lounge rooms are so packed, and all of a sudden it gets quieter and quieter and quieter, which is a beautiful thing. And gets more focused. There's just so many guys. It's so important just to worry about your one match at a time. Instead of looking at it's 128 draw, man, look, who's in the semis, who's in my quarter, who's in this. I never knew who I played the next round because it didn't even matter if I lost in that round. And I would specifically go into my press conferences and say, look, guys, before you say anything, do not tell me who's in my quarter or who's in my half. Just talk about this match and say now who my next opponent will be. And otherwise, I would really get upset. And I remember once, someone said something, and I walked out of the press conference because I specifically because I just don't like to know.
Yeah, no, and it's your right. You know,
there's no point of wasting energy. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into it, man. Preparation is very important. Having a good team around you, focusing.
Who coached you at that time, Mark? Who coached you at that time when you were in the final of Wimbledon?
Well, my dad was always my main, but during the US Open, the first time, Gavin Hopper was working with me, almost tennis, but as fitness. And then I had Pat Cash as well. I had a great team around me, And then Wimbledon was just my dad. And it's important to have that good team around you. It's important to have people around you that make you feel comfortable. I think that's the most important thing where people don't realize about coaches and players and maybe sometimes fans being surprised of certain coaches working with certain players. Number one is the player has to feel comfortable with that person because you're literally, you're 24/7 with them. And you want to feel comfortable because that coach has to be everything to you. He's got to be a coach. He's got to be your best friend.
Guidance.
And everything. You know, you book the courts. You're there to find someone to practice to, get the rackets in. If your player doesn't want to practice and just wants to hit with you and just wants to warm up, whatever he wants to do to get ready, whatever is best for him, you've got to get ready. You get his food. You know, you're his psychologist. You're his therapist. So it's a lot. It's maintaining every match, making sure you don't overtrain because you're playing best of 5 sets. So it's a different thing to best of 3 sets. Yeah. Then you got one day off. What do you do to recover? Physiotherapy. You know, a lot of them now have their own therapists, the massage therapists, that go back to the hotel so you don't have to wait around in a locker room.
That's what I wanted. That was one of my next questions. I'll come back to that later.
Yeah, and it's just all about what can you do to get back on the court so you can give yourself the best possible chance in that next match. And then hopefully you win that match and then boom, straight back to work. What can you do to get yourself in the best position to win that match? Who are you playing? Like what? Look, it's weird because you always got to play your own game. Always, no matter who you play, you know what your weapons are. Yeah. You know what your go-to shots are. So you want to make sure on the big points, you're hitting those shots that you love the most. You know what I mean? Yeah. But at the same time, adjusting your game to the opponent you play, but still playing your game.
Yes. So what did it look like? If you can bring us a little bit closer to the court. So the hour before the match against Roger, right? So your dad and you obviously you had like a game plan, or like, you know, when you got in there, like so how does that look right before? Like that's always interesting, you know. I got some really cool insights from all the players. How does that look? It's such an important match. So your second final, you know.
Look, it's very important for me to tell myself this is just another match. You know what I mean? This is just another match. Mm-hmm. But it's not. Very quickly you realize there's no one in the locker room. Man, I'm on one side, he's on the other. Yeah. We make that very famous walk and down the corridor where it's all blocked off. Everyone's looking at you. Security guards in front of us, behind us. I'm telling myself it's just another match. You know, it's similar to a semi-final, kind of similar feel to the semi-final match I played. And then you go down the stairs, and as soon as you go down the stairs, that trophy's staring right at you. You know, they make sure they put it right in front of you, right before you walk out on the court, so you know it's not just another match. You know what I mean? And then the butterflies start, man. He's trying to stay relaxed, but then the butterflies start. Things were quiet. You can hear a drop of a pin, and then you walk out, and the court's perfect, and the people erupt. It's what I dreamt of as a kid. I remember. As a little kid, I was able to stay up because I remember I watched Boris Becker win Wimbledon, the age of twice as a teenager. Pat Cash winning it, climbing the stands, I remember that, and it was my dream to play on that court. Number one, just to play on that court, but also to play that last match and to win was my dream. That was my, as a tennis player, and I fell one short, but the feeling was amazing. And look, I was confident. Grass is my favorite surface. I just beat Roger a month before that in the Hamburg round of 16. When he was defending champion there, the Master Series event, and I beat him on clay in 3, and he was defending champion, and now was his tournament to win again, and I beat him. I mean, I think he was seeded fourth in that tournament that year. I was unseeded, but I knew what I was capable of. It never mattered who I played. I knew what I could do, and I felt confident, and I came out. I was nervous, but I came out good. We both played good, and the big opportunity was the first set, because that momentum of the first set played a huge role in that match. And I remember I was up mini break in that tiebreaker and missed a forehand volley wide for 4-2. And I missed a passing shot, a 4-all, maybe a passing shot down the line. And I lost that. And that was huge momentum, builder. And I gave it everything, but just fell short. I ended up, I think I was probably close to 7 hours more on the court than him during the whole tournament. Played a couple of 5-setters and a couple of, and one or two 4-setters as well. That first set was very, very important as far as momentum. And that was his first Grand Slam, but he had won many tournaments. And as I mentioned, was 4 in the world and was always an incredibly talented player. And as a front runner too, he was very dangerous, more dangerous back then, whereas now is we've seen him so many times come back from 2 sets of love in a break. And he wasn't, maybe back then, wasn't as mentally the animal and as tough as he is now, of course, as everything that he's been through. So that's why I think that first set was so important. But and he just ran away with it.
So, but therefore, you win, lose, obviously, and Davis Cup. So, I know many Australians, and I know how proud you guys, are, and how much that you clinched it twice, I think, right? You won it twice, and then so the most famous one, like a friend of mine and my colleague Chase Carstairs, his name, he's from Australia, so he was in the stands. He watched you playing there. So when you tore your pec muscle, so just guide us a little bit through the emotions there, and what Davis Cup means to you, obviously,
it's everything. It's very simple. As a tennis player, as an athlete, I mean, you know how big sport is in Australia. We love our sport in Australia. And as a tennis player, there were 2 things that were the pinnacle. It was, even though we have our own Australian Open, honestly, it was Davis Cup and Wimbledon. You grew up, everything was about Davis Cup. It was like a religion, for us to wear the green and gold. I also remember very, very clearly in Kooyong years ago when Australia played Sweden in the final. Michael Penforce was up 2 sets to love against and a break against Pat Cash, and Pat Cash came back to win it for Australia on grass. They're things you remember. We have numbers on our jerseys, that the number of what Australian we are playing for Davis Cup. It's a huge thing for us. So I was lucky enough in 1999 we had won one against. We played in Nice against France, and we beat France, which was incredible. And this was 2003, and it was in Melbourne. We weren't expected to beat France in Nice on clay, and we did. And this time we played Spain at Melbourne Park on grass, where, I mean, you couldn't get a more solid country than Spain. They have so many options for players, but we're expected to win. That's I think was very easy to say, being Australia playing on grass in Melbourne. And the first one in Nice, I won that last match to win it, and the feeling was amazing. And then this was more added pressure because of playing at home.
Home crowd,
Different atmosphere. Still crazy, but different atmosphere.
And is it true that the grass, because you guys played in the summer, right? So there were a lot of bugs, and was it different than Wimbledon with the grass, or?
No, because this was November. This was
Oh, November. Okay, okay,
early November. So it was hot, but nothing like Aussie Open.
okay.
It was just a beautiful day. It wasn't too hot. It was, I don't know, maybe low 20s or something. You know,
Okay.
it was a beautiful day. And yeah, I was 2 sets. Came up pumped. You know, I came out pumped. I was playing Ferrero. Ferrer. Sorry, not Ferrer. Ferrer. Juan Carlos.
Ferrero.
No,
Yeah, Juan Carlos Ferrero.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And 2 sets to love up. And in the middle of the third, something happened. I didn't know what happened, but I had torn my pectoral muscle, and I was just a lot of pain. And then as we kept on going, I couldn't hit a ball. Like my serve was averaging maybe 127 at the start, 130 was starting to average close to 100. I mean, and I knew something was wrong, and I lost the third set 6-3, maybe the fourth 6-1.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hurting. I was in pain. Any other match, anything else, man, I was
retired, huh?
Oh, for sure. The pain, but I thought, let me go. I need to go to the toilet. So I took a break, went to the toilet, and I went in the bathroom and a locker room, and Leighton was warming up, you know, because if I'd lost, he's got to play the last one. And I remember I said to him, not in these words, but I said to him,
Yeah.
"What are you effing doing?" I'm warming up. I go, "You're not going to play. I'm going to win this." I went nuts at him, yelling, and he was like, "All right, man. All right, yeah." And I was just, I think I just took out some frustration of being hurt, and just I saw him there, and I just went nuts in his warming up, you know. And how dare you warm up, you know? And
That's so funny.
Thinking, oh my God, man, I don't know, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do this? And I just thought, just 1 point at a time, just 1 point at a time, you know. And I thought, I'm serving first. So I thought, just you know, it's grass. Just first serve, first volley, go old school, man. Because I couldn't serve over 120. It wasn't even close. 105 maybe. My big serve was like 108. And serve and volley, and I had first point, and then I double faulted. I won this 30-15, and I double fault. And the crowd, of course, you know, and it hurts even more, you know. Ended up second serve, 40-30, great return. I remember just like a reaching volley, like stretching cross court topspin winner, and I was, oh my God, that hurt. Crowd went nuts, and like I was just throbbing, you know, and I was like, man, I can't even hit a ball. I need to get to the net as quick as possible. I was hitting, chip and charging off first serves, off second serves, you name it, man. And 1 point at a time, all of a sudden, it's break point. I'm pushing them, and he was getting nervous because he knew I was hurt, you know. And this he was nervous, of course. So he's just making me play. We're having this. It was like a 15, 20-something rally, almost 30-shot rally, break point. And I chip and charge, and he's sitting there, and he misses it long. Crowd goes nuts, 2-love. And it just goes from there, man. 1 point at a time, 1 point at a time. And then again, I'm chip and charge, right? Everything. He starts freaking out, man. I break him again, 4-love, 5, and it ended up being 6-love the last set. Wow. Without a doubt, my proudest moment in my tennis career. Most painful, but I couldn't even hold up the trophy at the end. When we were taking pictures, it was my proudest moment, man. Yeah, that's for sure.
Nice. All right, Mark, last one, and then I don't want to take too much time of you. I'm so thankful that you do this.
No, man, pleasure.
So you know, as you mentioned earlier, you know, like, you know, Damian Zumor, one of my friends who's playing on a tour, he has his physio and his massage person, the same, you know, like Maxa. They work. And do you think, did you have someone, or did you rely on the ATP
Later on, let me say one thing that I wish I'd done from the start. Since I was 18, 19, I wish I had a therapist with me.
That was my question. You think your knees would have held, like, you know, like you would have prolonged it, that, you know, that you
look had... when a few times when I got hurt, and I had 6 knee surgeries, and definitely a few of them were out of my hands. It was,
Okay.
you know, who knows? There was no
Yeah.
reason. First one, 99 Sampras quarterfinals. I was up a set break point, and I hit a backhand on my back foot like I've done 3,000 times in my life,
Mm.
and I tear my cartilage. I mean, you
Mm.
can't prepare
Yeah.
for something like that. But without a doubt, I wish that your number one investment is your body, man. If
Yeah.
of course, in your mind, if your body isn't right, you can't play.
Yeah.
So the problem is no one really did that. We had therapists at the ATP tournaments. You know,
Yeah.
there was a couple of therapists there, and some players had massage therapists with them, but not
Mhm.
real physiotherapists, your own
Yeah.
physiotherapist, you know. So
Who are really good in prevention and all those things, you know,
yeah,
instead of that.
and later on, a few years later, I that's something looking
Mhm.
back. If I could give any tennis player um, any kind of advice, it would definitely be in. I know it's difficult, but invest. You know, invest in having someone with you, because that person will get to know your body. You don't have to wait
Yes.
around. He
He knows
knows you
exactly what's going on.
on you, and his job is to get you on the court ready
Yeah.
physically, mentally. If you're feeling good physically, you're feeling good mentally. You
And you
know,
don't
and
have to wait. You don't rely on them, like you said. You don't have
yeah.
to wait and all
Well,
those
because
things.
what happens is, unfortunately, there's a lot. You know, you've got singles players, you've got doubles players, you have mixed players in these Grand Slams. You know, these trainers are fantastic. The ATP
Yeah.
have, but these guys are so busy. You know,
Yeah.
and as much they would love to have 2 hours with you, they've got a line of six guys out
Yeah.
the door. Like, okay, what is it? Is it your back? They want to help you, but they also need to take care of the next guy. So they're kind of halfway in, halfway out, where they're not 100% focused. Where if you got your own guy, you ice, do what you have to do, but then let's get back to the hotel so you can relax, get in front of
Yeah.
the TV, and 2 hours, 3 hours until 1 in the morning, whatever has to be done. That's his job, you know. So that's one thing that is a must for sure these days, is having you know, tennis
Yeah.
has
No,
become
massive.
much more physical than what it used to be, with the courts being slowed down, the balls being slowed down.
Yeah.
It's a lot more physical what it used to be. The points are so much longer. It's a different game. So it's definitely a therapist is a great investment, man. Number one investment, literally alongside
Yeah.
coach, for
Yes.
sure.
Are you still involved in tennis, Mark? Do you do something
I
still?
play probably around 10 events a year, you know, normally pretty quiet right now, but, you know, during the Grand Slams, all the Grand Slams,
Okay, so you always play with the.
and I normally play on the Champions Tour and some exhibitions and charity events, whatever it is. But I still like to play because, number one, I feel like I fell in love with the game again, especially
Mhm.
playing these championship events, playing with the guys that I used to play with, and now the fact that the wall is down. You know, when you
Yeah.
play, man, it's 1-on-1. You don't really
Yeah.
have your best friends on the tour. You're guarded. You don't want to
Yeah.
become too close because you have to
Yeah.
play these guys. And all of a sudden, the champion tour, the wall is down. We see each
It's different,
other.
huh? Yeah.
We eat breakfast. We go for
Yeah.
dinners. We play a match. We talk about our families, what we're
Yeah.
doing. And that guard is down, you know, and you really get to know someone on a personal level and really connect and
Yeah.
develop a true friendship. And I love it. So I'm very blessed the fact that I get invited to play these events, and I love it, and it's a good way to stay in shape still.
And coaching a player maybe one day.
Um, I have no interest of being on the tour full time. I have my family. I don't want to be away
Takes too
from
much time away from family. That, yeah.
100%. But a limited number of tournaments I would be interested in. I would be, because if Grand Slams I could have my family with me, so
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
option. But depending on the player, I think, and if I could help them, if I feel
Mhm.
like it's a right fit,
Mhm.
but probably limited number, to be honest with you. But definitely, I probably would enjoy it. You know, I probably would enjoy it, but definitely not full time, man. No.
And I understand that totally. And then talk. You have two kids, Mark.
I have two. Yeah, I have a
Yes.
6-year-old son and a 20. Well, my daughter turns one in next month. So
Okay. Yeah. So that how did
she's
that
two. Two.
change?
She turns two next month. Sorry.
Two. So how did that change you? The last question, because I have a 5-year-old son, and when he was born, everything is you
Amazing,
know
man. Look, family was always my priority, even when I played on the tour, even when I played tennis. Anything happened with my family, that was always number one before my tennis, always. So, and nothing's changed, of course. And even now, it's gone to a whole new level, man. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful. I don't have to tell you.
No,
I don't have to share it. It's an incredible feeling, and we live for them. And it's unfortunately they grow up too fast. I wanted to
yes.
slow down a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And one thing they do teach you, man. Oh my God, patience. Oh,
Yeah.
my son's taught me a lot of patience. I've still got to learn, but he's teaching you a lot
Same,
of patience.
same here, same here. And
Yeah.
a couple of more headaches I have, but it's in the end of the day, as you said, just goes too quickly, And mine's going to be 5 now, August 10th, and
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think
But
that
you're
was a
out
nice,
in place.
nice ending talking about family because I think a lot of people saw during the Corona times that a lot of people work. They just saw how much they actually work and how much time they do not spend with their families.
Yeah.
So I think that's one positive thing that came out of it.
100%, man. For me, honestly, with the corona, and it's still now we're in lockdown again. We have probably
Yeah.
another 5 weeks to go, but it didn't change much for me, to be honest with you.
Good.
Except homeschooling was a nightmare with my son. Homeschooling was a nightmare. When the schools opened up, I think every parent in the world were high fiving each other, and very happy for the kids to be going back to
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, great, Mark. I look. I'm honored. That I have you here, and it's the being like the online thing is amazing. I started Tennis House 4 years ago, and last year it just jumped and grew to 40K, and I just try to get back to the game. And you guys being on, that means the world, not just to me, to all the followers that watch, and like. You're such a great guy, man. Like I
thank.
hope maybe one day I see you at one of the majors. Like
Please, you see me, please, anytime, man, please come and say hi. It was, thank you
I
for
will.
your time. It was my
I will.
pleasure. And congrats on the 40K plus.
Thank you.
And obviously you're doing the right things because you have all those followers. So stay with it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mark. And then yeah, I hope to see you one day and enjoy the rest of the day.
You too, man. I'm sure you will later. Thank
Thank you,
you.
man. Yeah, awesome, awesome guy. Like that was amazing. Like super nice. When I talk to Anna Cohn as well, that Paul calms you down when he speaks, and Mark is just like a super nice guy. That was fun. I really enjoyed this one, and yeah, it's amazing, how the internet connects, and I hope all of you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for everybody who stayed so long up to watch it. I think it was number 55. Thanks, Mike. It was number 55, I think. So we did a lot during the quarantine, and yeah, I mean Emilio Sanchez, Mark Philippoussis, Monica Puig, Pablo Andujar, like like we had like so many, and yeah, it's amazing. And we don't forget, guys, we're gonna have Mary Pierce on July 24th, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the night or the day wherever you are. And I hear you guys. See you soon, guys.